Japan has a history of dominating all of Southeast Asia for a short period. This is called the Greater East Asia War. In the previous part, it is said that Japan enshrined Class A war criminals who led the war in a shrine and worshipped them in order to boast of the Great East Asian War as a glorious history, despite opposition from neighboring countries. History is important not only in its outcome, but also in its contents. Although Japan has committed countless atrocities, not only in Korea, but also in China and Southeast Asia, Japan has refused to apologize for it. It is the logic of arguing why they should apologize when they entered the Southeast Asian countries, not to invade, but to help the suffering Asian countries by driving out the Western countries that had colonized them. At that time, Vietnam, Cambodia was French colonies, Malaysia, Myanmar was a British colony, Indonesia was a Dutch colony, and the Philippines was a US colony. When Japan invaded China in 1937, the United States began a naval blockade and controlled military supplies to Japan. Japan suffered from a lack of resources and desperately needed a new supply of resources. In 1939, World War II broke out. And in June 1940, France and the Netherlands were occupied by Germany. And Britain would soon be occupied. Therefore, a power vacuum began to appear in Southeast Asia. As France and Britain were pushed back from attacks by local independent groups, these countries were able to become independent on their own. Desperate to secure resources, Japan decided to invade Southeast Asia in July 1940, after collecting information from Allied Germany and local conditions in Europe. This was because it was easier to invade before independence, as well as to establish an external justification. In August 1940, Japan invaded and inflicted great damage on the countries of the region, under the excuse that it was necessary to form a greater East Asian co-prosperity sphere centered on Japan in order for Asian peoples to escape from Western colonial rule. Atrocities and massacres against local residents continued. Millions of residents were mobilized for harsh forced labor to build military facilities, and more than 2 million local residents died of starvation due to the extortion of military supplies and food, and protests against the seizure of military supplies. To explain all damages is impossible, such as inducing murderous inflation by issuing unlimited local currency to purchase military supplies, causing enormous damage to the people's livelihood economy. All of these atrocities were carried out under the false justification of the Greater East Asian Co-Prosperity Sphere, which Japan is proud of for its glorious history. For reference, at the time, Japan was using 3 different currencies. The first was the official currency, yen. The second was the military currency, used by the military base. And the third was the local currency of the occupied territory. And military currency and regional currency were issued unlimitedly. In principle, it was said that these currencies were exchanged for yen, but in reality, they did not change it for various excuses. It was this kind of money paid to comfort women, and Japan claims that comfort women made more money than officers.